Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special budget meeting, July 16th. Welcome everyone in the gallery, also all the councillors and senior staff, and those listening online. But we have no leave of absence or apology, so I'll call on Pastor LaRue from the Church of Christ to come forward and offer prayers for the business of council, but particularly this budget meeting.
Let's bow our heads, let's pray. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for who you are. We thank you, God, for our everyday lives, for being a God of abundance and generosity. Lord Jesus, we pray over our leaders, we pray over their decision making, we pray over all things regarding our region, Lord. We pray, Lord, that you continue to allow us to thrive under their leadership. And Father, we thank you, God, for placing them in these positions. We thank you, God, for your guidance upon their lives. Lord Jesus, I pray for our youth in this area. I pray for our families, all the people in this area, God. I pray for their safety. And Lord, that you continue to allow this region to thrive once again. It is in your holy name that we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor LaRue. I now call on Councillor Linda Little to do the acknowledgement of country.
I'd like to acknowledge the country and land where we meet today, the Waka Waka land, and acknowledge our elders, both past and present.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Now I'll call on anyone who has declarations of interest for the budget meeting. No declarations of interest. So we'll move on to the item 6.1 on page 6, which is the adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Annual Operational Plan 25-26. So the officer's recommendation is that, sorry, I've just got the wrong agenda. The officer's recommendation is that the South Bennett Regional Council Annual Operational Plan 25-26 be adopted as presented. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Sander. Any discussion, questions? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.2, adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Debt Policy on page 27. So the officer's recommendation, excuse me, it says that the South Bennett Regional Council Debt Policy 25-26 Statutory 010 be adopted as presented. So I have a mover for that one. Councillor Height, seconded by Councillor Deneen. Any discussion? No discussion?
The only thing, if I may, Mayor, is 7 years now that council hasn't borrowed. And the forecast for the end of this financial year, we're sitting around 20 million in debt now. So we've more than halved the debt over that period of time. The forecast will be 17 odd million at the end of this financial year. So
that's a good outcome. So just wanted to thank everyone, and thanks CEO Mark for your leadership and keeping us so that we look after that very important financial business that is our whole region. And the debts are, I know that people, when I first got elected, were very concerned about the debt levels, and now, as you said, 7 years, and we haven't been had to borrow, so we're doing pretty well. And that's I just wanted to use this opportunity to also acknowledge our finance team leader, Kerry Anderson. So thank you for what you do. So it's been moved and seconded, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item, we're just going to resolve that we move item 6.3, the Mayor's Budget Address, to the end, which will be at item 6.31, if that's okay. So that we don't have to move and second that. CEO Mark said that we have the power just to resolve that. If everyone's happy, we can just resolve it. So the next item is 6.4, statements of estimated financial position to the 30th of June 2025 on page 35. So the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the statement of the financial operations and financial position, including capital expenditure of the council in respect of the previous financial year, the statement of estimated financial position be received and its contents noted. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Little, seconded by Councillor Potter. Any discussion? General Manager Kerry, did you want to comment on that one?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So basically, the regulations have the council have to each year provide our estimated position where we're expecting that we potentially will land. Obviously, these are still forecasts. We're still going through doing all of our final accruals and prepayments and journals and adjustments for getting ready for the annual financial statements. As you can see, at this stage, we're expecting that for our operational result, that we will have a better operating deficit than what the last budget had. This is through a mixture of different items. So we did receive some additional prepayment for the financial assistance grant, so that one is in there. We've also had additional depreciation. We've put in some forecasting for where we think that our provisions for our landfill and our long service leave and other provisions will land. So they've all had an effect. Not all of them have an effect on our cash. Some of those are just, book entries. But overall, we will be better off than where we were. We're currently in an analysis period as well, just to have a look at where we were over, why we were over, and we will bring that report back to the ELT for discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Any questions to Kerry? Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Kerry, and all your team for the hard work that you've done. But I also like to think that I think as councillors, we've taken our responsibility and your instructions that we're back to basics council. And I think we have worked pretty hard to rein in our wishes to build, fabulous play areas. And I know when I go away and see something that's just fabulous and think, how great would this be? But, we've all managed to rein that back and keep in mind that we are back to basics and keeping in mind our ratepayers' pockets as well as our council budget. And I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for your leadership because this is really our first 12 months of a budget. We came in last year, but it was in a new council coming in. But we've now had 12 months where we've all participated in the spending and the savings and the debating on what's going to be spent and how it's going to be spent. And I'd like to congratulate you, Mayor, on great leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Yes, it's a team effort. We're all in this together, and I think we're working well as a team. So thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to item 6.6 on page 54. Sorry, 6.5 on page 39. So the officer's recommendation, this is the differential general rates category and criteria. That the officer's recommendation is that South Bend Regional Council adopt differential general rates for the year ending 30th of June 2026. Number 2 is pursuant to section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the categories into which rateable land is categorised, the description of those categories, and in accordance with sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the method by which land is to be identified and included in its appropriate category is as listed in the table below. And number 3, Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer the power in accordance with sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land belongs. And then there's all these categories on page 40 and 41, 42, 43, 44 and 45, 46, 47, it goes right through to
51.
page 51. So all of those are the rateable categories. So someone like to move that? Councillor Height. Someone second get that? Councillor Potter. Councillor Height.
Just wanted to make comment here that because we've had the revaluation this year, this has been really challenging. It's easy if the valuation in any one group goes up and down, but within groups, there's been a massive amount of difference in the amount it's gone up. So just as nobody is average, there has been a range, and so it has been particularly challenging. So I do commend our finance team. And when ratepayers look at their rates bill, because they're not average, if their valuation went up a lot, their rates might go up more, others might have gone down. So it has been a particularly challenging year, which is why we've tried to keep that increase as low as possible to counteract those variations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Height. I also want to thank General Manager Kerry, because she has done that. Normally we get a consultant up, and the consultants, we're trying to cut back on consultants, and Kerry has done that all on her with her team, her finance team. It's been, the weight has all been on her shoulders to deliver, considering we've had as Councillor Height said, the valuations and the different variables in each category. Done an amazing job, so thank you. So it's been moved and seconded, so no further comments. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So the next item is item 6.7 on page 57, which is the minimum general rates. Sorry, 6.7. Oh, which what have I got? Oh, sorry, 6.6 on page 54. So this one is the adoption of the differential general rates. So the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 80 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rate to be made excuse me, and levied for each differential general rate category for the year ending the 30th of June 2026 is as follows. And there's all the different rating categories. Yeah, so there's could take quite a while if I read them all, but they're listed in the agenda. So someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Height, seconded by Councillor Dineen. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.7, minimum general rates on page 57. And the officer's recommendation is that in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 77 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the minimum general rate to be made and levied for the year ending 30th of June 2026 for each differential general rate category is as follows, and that's listed down on page 57 and 58. Someone like to move that? Councillor Little, seconded. Councillor Height. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.8 on page 60. So this one here is that averaging of land valuations. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to sections 74 and 76 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, for the purpose of making and levying differential general rates for the 25-26 financial year, the rateable value of land is the 3-year averaged value of land. Someone like to move that? Councillor Height, second by Councillor Erkins. So we do this because because of the variations that Councillor Height talked about, we can do the 3-year averaging. So any further discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So you're voting against the averaging. Okay, so I just have to recall the votes. So all those in favour? And all those against? So it's the motion has been carried 6 votes to 1. Thank you. And Councillor Sander voted against that one. Okay, so the next item is 6.9 on page 62. And this one here is business activities, 25-26. The officer's recommendation that in relation to council's business activities in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Division 2, Section 43 and the Local Government Regulation 2012, council determines that it does not presently have a significant business activity for the financial year 25-26. See Statement of Business Activities Table 1, due to none of its business activities exceeding the 9,700,000 threshold in the 24-25 financial year as per Section 19 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And number 2, council determines that those business activities categorised as prescribed business activities and listed in the Statement of Prescribed and Other Business Activities Table 2 are those activities that meet the prescribed activity threshold of 340,000 or more in accordance with Section 39 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And number 3, council resolved not to apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to any business activity in 25-26 in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Section 47(7) and the Local Government Regulation 2012. Would someone like to move that one? Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Little. General Manager Kerry, I might ask you to explain that to the gallery and to the listeners and to the council. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So in the regulations, it talks about the prescribed business activities and the significant business activities. So the regulation is really looking at anything, especially when we're looking at our water, wastewater and waste, those activities that could potentially go over the thresholds that are set in the regulations, which would then mean that council would need to make sure that they go down a process to look at either full cost pricing for those activities to make sure that we are costing everything how we need to for the market. And with regards to your other business activities, those significant ones, they're basically looking at to see if you've got anything, an activity that is costing a significant amount of money. Do we need to make sure that we're being careful and applying the competitive conduct principles, especially if there's something that other people might be in the market in our area, that we need to be making sure that we're not undercutting services so that we're being competitive and giving other businesses in the area a chance if they're directly competing with us. So it's just important to note that, yes, our water and wastewater are nearly at the 10,000 connections, and our waste business unit is looking to go over the 9.7 million in the 25-26 year. So during this 25-26 financial year, we will have to start looking at what that full cost pricing model looks like for all of those different activities, so that way we're prepared for basically the next financial year and going into this next 26-27 budget and how that affects that.
Thank you. Any questions to General Manager Kerry? Everyone understand that one? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, against, carried. Thank you. So now we're moving on to the special charge rural fire brigades on item 610 on page 67. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Section 128A of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, 1, council make and levy a special charge to be known as a rural fire levy special charge of $25 per rateable assessment on all rateable land within the region to which the overall plan applies. That also attracts a Class E emergency management levy pursuant to Part 3 of the Fire and Emergency Services Regulation 2011 to fund the operations of the rural fire brigades that operate throughout the rural areas of the South Bennett region. And number 2, the overall plan for the rural fire levy special charge is as follows. A, the rateable land to which the plan applies is all rateable land within the region other than rateable land that is liable to pay an urban district fire levy pursuant to Section 107 of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990. B, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the rural fire brigades that operate throughout the rural areas of the region. And C, the time for implementing the overall plan is 1 year, commencing the 1st of July 2025 and ending the 30th of June 2026. And D, the estimated cost of implementing the overall plan for the 25-26 year is $216,050. And A, the level of contribution each brigade receives will be decided by the local area rural fire services committee. I think that was meant to be E instead of A. Anyway, if someone could move that, Councillor Height, someone to second that, Councillor Little. So this is, it's really important that we do this for the rural fire brigades. They do an amazing job, and I think that this season is going to be particularly challenging with the amount of grass we've got around and the fact that we've had so many frosts. So, yeah, just big shout out to the rural fire brigade and what they do. So any more comments or questions? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next one is item 6.11 on page 69, the adoption of discount on rates. So the officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rates, wastewater utility charges, water access charges, refuge collection charges, including recycling, made and levied shall be subject to an early payment discount of 10% if paid within the discount period of 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice, provided that 1, all of the aforementioned rates and charges are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. 2, all other rates and charges appearing on the rate notice that are not subject to discount are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. And 3, all overdue rates and charges relating to the rateable assessment are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. Someone to move that? Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Erkins. Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that I'm glad we are still doing the 10% discount. I know there are other councils that have taken the discount away completely or halved it down to 5 or 2%. So we are still keeping ours at 10%. I mean, if we took it away, we could make another $5 million, but we're not doing that to our community. So we really feel strongly that this is something we need to keep in place. But also keep in mind that if anyone is having issues with their rates, we do have policies and procedures in place that they can come to council and come forward sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Potter. Any other comments, discussion? It's been moved and seconded. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is 6.12 on page 71. And this one is the exemptions and concessions on various special, separate and utility charges. The officer's recommendation is that 1, pursuant to section 9.3 of the Local Government Act 2009, Council provides an exemption of differential general rates and separate charges for properties as identified within the categories per the table below. 2, pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council grants a rebate for various rates and charges for the financial year ending the 30th of June 2026 as identified in the table below and subject to the following. A, property owners must notify council immediately if there is a substantive change in land use for a property that is receiving a rate concession. B, applications received during the current financial year that fall within the categories below will be granted a rate concession following the passing of a resolution by council. And C, if a property has been granted a rate concession in the previous financial year, the owner will not be required to reapply to receive the rate concession for the current financial year. However, proof of ongoing eligibility will be required if requested. So there's a list of those groups. So would someone like to move that? Councillor Potter, second by Councillor Deneen. Councillor Potter.
Again, thank you, Mayor. Look, this is something that we do as a council, and we don't get any extra credit for this as a council, which I truly believe we should, because giving all these groups and community organisations this extra bit of help so they don't have to do that extra work for fundraising, I really, truly believe that this is something that we should probably, this is as you would say, Mayor, this is a good news story. So the more we can help our community in these ways, the better it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the community groups are very much they just do an amazing job. They're salt of the earth volunteers, and just fantastic that we were able to keep them, we'll support them with these discounts. So any other comments? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So the next one is the item 6.13 on page 74, which is the adoption of the concession of water consumption charges, hemodialysis machines 25-26. The officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to section 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council allows an annual rebate of up to 190 kilolitres on the water usage to any patient who qualifies for and operates a home hemodialysis machine supplied by Queensland Health. And number 2, the owner of the testable backflow prevention device that supplies water to a home hemodialysis machine is exempted from the yearly lodgement fee. The Form 9 and testing remains a requirement under plumbing legislation. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Potter, second by Councillor Sander. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.14 on page 76. And this one is the setting of concession on rates and charges for approved pensioners. The officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a rebate of rates be granted to all ratepayers who are pensioners and who are eligible for the Queensland Government Pensioner Remission. The rebate will be set at 20% of the differential general rates, sewage utility charges, water utility charges and waste refuge utility charges. And number 2, the maximum concession granted per property shall be capped at $200 per annum. Number 3, an additional concession of 50% of the waste recycling collection charge be allowed for eligible pensioners who pay for a recycling service. Number 4, eligibility will be based on the below criteria in accordance with policy and procedures for the Queensland Government Pensioner Rate Subsidy Scheme. A, the pensioner must hold an eligible pensioner concession card or DVA gold card for all conditions. B, property where the subsidy is applied for must be the pensioner's principal place of residence. And C, the pensioner must be listed on the certificate of title of the property. Someone like to move that? Councillor Sander. Someone to second that? Councillor Little. Any discussion? No questions, comments? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is 6.15 on page 78, the adoption of waiving minimum general rates. So this officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to section 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council grants a rebate equal to the full value of the separate charges and part of the differential general rates equal to the difference between the minimum differential general rate for the appropriate category and the rate calculated using the rate in the dollar and the valuation for the properties identified here under. Number 1, any rateable land held as a permit to occupy for water facility purposes, namely bore and pump site and associated purposes only. And number 2, properties that are small parcels of land worked in conjunction with properties held in the same ownership and identified in the table here under. So we've just got accesses to Hebble Drive Tablelands and Bradley's Road, Warroondin. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Sander. Someone to second that? Councillor Potter. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is 6.16 on page 80. And this one is the interest on overdue rates. The officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, compound interest on daily rests at the rate of 9% per annum is to be charged on all overdue rates or charges. Number 2, South Bank Regional Council determined that rates or charges will be considered as overdue for the charging of interest if they remain unpaid after 60 days from the due date of the relevant rate notice. Someone to move that? Councillor Deneen, second by Councillor Little. Any discussion? Councillor Sander.
I'll just point out that, like it was last year, was 12.35% was the index rate, so 9% is actually cheaper than the current index rate as well.
Thank you. Councillor Aikens.
8% last year.
Councillor Erkins.
I'd just like to point out to ratepayers that if they have difficulties, again, we can't stress it enough, contact council because, a plan can be worked out and that would stop that interest.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Any other comments? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is item 6.17 on page 82. And this is the levy and payment of rates and charges. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 107 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Section 114 of the Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management fire and rescue levy be levied, A, for the half year 1st of July 2025 to the 31st of December 2025 in August 2025, and B, for the half year 1st of January 2026 to the 30th of June 2026 in February 2026. Number 2, pursuant to Section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management fire and rescue levy be paid within 30 days of the issue of the rate notice. Someone could move that one. Councillor Little, seconded by Councillor Potter. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.18 on page 84, Proston Common Effluent Disposal Utility Charges. The officer's recommendation is for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council make and levy sewage utility charges for the supply of sewage services by the council as follows. The following utility charges be made and levied for the provision of a common effluent disposal system for the year ended the 30th of June 2026. Number 1, in respect of all land and premises which are connected to council's common effluent disposal system. A, for the first pedestal connected to the system, a charge of $490 per annum per pedestal. B, other than additional pedestals installed in a private residence for the sole use of the occupier and their family, all additional pedestals will be levied a charge of $392 per annum per additional pedestal for hospital and education facilities, $392 per annum per additional pedestal for all other categories. And C, where any premises not connected to the council common system become connected during the year, the charges under clause A1 shall become operative from the date of connection with proportionate rebate from that date. And D, a charge of $102 per annum will apply to vacant land that is capable of being connected to the system. Would someone like to move that one? Councillor Dineen, seconded by Councillor Little. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.19, separate charge, community rescue and evacuation, on page 86. The officer's recommendation is that 25-26 financial year and pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Sections 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Community Rescue and Evacuation Separate Charge in the sum of $5 per rateable assessment to be levied equally on all rateable land in the region for the purpose of sponsoring the aerial emergency rescue and evacuation transport providers that service the South Burnett region. Would someone like to move that one? Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Sander. Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is one I feel highly strongly about, because if you go by the last term, I had 3 family members actually flying out with life flight. So this is something I truly feel quite strongly about, and I'm also a life flight ambassador. But we've had other councillors here. Councillor Sanders' daughter Summer has been flown out, and it saved her life as well. So, there's a lot more of us in our community in that same situation that are very grateful for the organisation. But I just would like to say that if people are concerned that they're paying an extra $5 in their levy, they can claim that back on tax by taking their rates notice in when they do their tax up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. It is a very, very worthy cause, and they do an amazing job for our region. So it's been moved and seconded, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So now we're moving on to item 6.20 on page 88, which is the waste management levy. So the officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to Section 9(4) of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 103 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a separate charge to be known as the Waste Management Separate Charge in the sum of $245 per rateable assessment to be levied equally on all rateable land in the region for the purpose of 1. Providing and maintaining waste facilities and services that are not met from other fees and charges collected on a user pays basis, and 2. Meeting public expectations in matters associated with the disposal and management of refuge that affect public health and visual amenity of the area. Someone like to move that? Councillor Erkins. Someone to second that? Councillor Deneen. Any discussion?
Yep.
Councillor Erkins.
Thank you. I'd really like to stress, Madam Mayor, to our community the need for recycling. Waste management is becoming a very, very expensive item in council. We're running out of room of where to put our waste, and it is just going to be a problem, a very expensive problem to rectify and to dispose of our waste. So if community could do their bit and make sure that they do that recycling, they do composting where they can, every little bit is going to help to reduce the waste for our region. I really recommend that everyone looks into it because we're all going to be paying for it. This is a cost imposed on us by state government, and we have to pass it on, but to reduce the waste is very important.
Well said, but Councillor Sander?
I don't agree with putting up prices on stuff, so I'm going to be voting against this, but I believe that we need to find alternative ways. By putting the price up it might help now, but it's not going to help in the long term. So I believe that we need to be really looking at alternative ways to deal with this.
So the other thing, thank you, Councillor Sander, but we actually keep all our rural tips, our transfer stations, we've kept them all open because we're very supportive of our rural areas, and I know a lot of other councils have closed those rural transfer stations. So I'm very conscious that we continue to support those areas, and I think that is why our costs are probably elevated. I know that CEO Marcus, and over the years, we've often challenged, how many transfer stations we actually need out in those rural areas. But one time when they talked about shutting the Cloyner one, the packed the Heisel Hall. So it was back when we owned the Heisel Hall, and it was just such an issue for landholders. They feel it's one of the services that we do provide, and I know, like I said, a lot of other councils have shut those transfer stations down. So any other discussion? Councillor Erkins?
I haven't actually passed this message on to Councillor Little, but we were actually at a meeting yesterday with the Bee Honey Club, where one of the residents there actually lives at Maidenwell, was very, very grateful for the work that's been done up there on the transfer station up there. So just to pass.
That's right. So thank you, Councillor Erkins, but that's another example. I know Maidenwell was one that we considered closing, but we've put our money into it, and that's cost ratepayers, but I think that they want to see those services. So, I'm very conscious that we support those rural areas. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? So it's carried 6 votes to 1. Councillor Sander has voted against that particular motion. So now we're moving on to item 6.21 on page 90, which is the waste collection utility charges. So the officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year, and in accordance with Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council may can levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services, including the storage, collection and removal of general waste on all land and structures to which a waste management service is supplied, or in the case of rateable land which is occupied, made available by council as follows. I'll just table that whole page. It's quite a lot of reading, but it's the council's discretion to levy waste management utility charges. And that's on page 90 of the agenda. So someone like to move that? Councillor Height, seconded by Councillor Potter. Any discussion? Councillor Sander.
So by raising it to 6%, what extra does that bring in to council?
So I might ask General Manager Carey to answer that one.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll just have to have a look at that for you, Councillor. Well,
Councillor, just depending on your question, on the total before, it wouldn't be the extra, but the total before any discounts, remissions or concessions is 4.45 million. That's the total take on that category.
So around that, what before, like without discounts and stuff, probably estimated around 300,000.
yeah, you'd have to be close. Yep.
So by raising that by that 6%, like what do the ratepayers get extra for that?
Well, that's what we're keeping, that's what I said, we're keeping the services open to everybody. We're not closing any rural tips. We're trying to manage, moving forward, we're trying to have somewhere a super dump into the future. We're putting money aside for all of those things. That's...
Yeah, if I can, so what the ratepayers are getting out of that is waste is one of our highest potential capital programs over the next 10 years as well, with water and wastewater. So when they talk about the things that keep you awake at night, waste is moving quite up there now very quickly. So there's, with the long-term cash flows and the capital programs, and to be able to minimise where possible some of the borrowing, so we'll have either capital operational costs, we're either going to have to freight waste out of the region, which will come at a high operational cost, particularly for the freight, or invest in capital. So this is a program that's been run over a period of time to build up, I suppose, capacity that we can deal with the waste issues going forward.
So a lot of them are government regulations. We just can't do anything about it. We just have to comply. Councillor Height?
The comment I'd like to make is it's $216 a year. Now, as somebody who lives not in a designated area, I have to take my rubbish, and to be honest, for $4, I wish somebody'd come to my house and pick my rubbish up and take it away, rather than me having to put it in the back of the car and drive it to a waste transfer area myself. And on occasions, if you've got some smelly rubbish, the car stinks for a week afterwards. So I personally think for $4 a week, it's a pretty good service.
Councillor Sander?
I'm just trying to get the point across that if we always, like, just raising the price of stuff, it's not going to achieve anything, it's not going to help anything in the long term. We need to be really looking at and investigating ways of dealing with this waste and doing it out there like something different, because if we always do what you've always done, you're just going to continue with what you're getting already.
So I don't think that that's a fair comment, because we have been around, we've had workshops and continuous trying to work out better ways, better strategies. We've even travelled to other places to look at other facilities. And I know that particularly Councillor Potter has been very proactive in looking at other ways that we can do things. And we have ample opportunity at every workshop to discuss, how we can move forward and do it better. And I appreciate that you're making a point, but we certainly are. I think that we have challenged it, talked about it, worked through other options, and at this point we're still at the crossroads as to where to from here. Councillor Erkins?
I think the point of putting it up is to the fact that we need to be able to afford it. We've got to be able to manage what we've got, and costs are rising. But when you said about doing things different, you know, I'm pretty proud of the fact that we've been working with a local resident who has put in a sample of recycling with our bench chairs in Nanango, and you know, we're very hopeful that that's going to be a process that he's going to continue with, that's going to deal with a lot of our plastics and recycling. So, you know, I think the comment is a little unfair that we're just doing things as it was always done, because there are, you know, new rules and regulations coming out from state government. You know, every month we're getting a list of things that we can and can't do. And it is a problem that we have inherited from, you know, residents long past, where it was just, you know, everyone just threw everything out. I think the fact that we do on occasions run education on how to recycle and how to do waste. I know council have run workshops on composting, and it would be good to see some of those run again. I know we've got a group in the area that do run those and are very keen to do them, because I think a lot of it does come back to educating our community. There's certain waste that there's just no way we're going to get rid of it, but there's a lot of it that we can be recycling and reusing, and I think it's important that we educate the community on that. But in the meantime, we still have costs that we must pay. And, you know, we talk about trying to keep, we're back to basics, and I think, you know, rubbish is one of our basics, and that's something that we do have to fund.
So, thank you, Councillor, because we have done that just recently with Christy. We've done that recycling video to show what the community, to try and help with the education of what can go in a recycling bin. So I think that we've, you know, obviously there's more we can do, but we're really, I think we are, as Councillor Oaken said, really trying to work out better ways. Councillor Sander?
Yeah, I think it was mistaken, Mayor, because I'm trying to put the point across that the whole country needs to do something, not just our council. It's across the board.
That's fair. Now, that's fair. Thank you. Councillor Height.
What I would like, going on from what Councillor Erkin said, if more people use recycling, I'd like to think that we have a fortnightly collection service. Then that would reduce costs. But we need the community, and as Councillor Sanders said, it's not something unique to us. I think as a society, everything gets disposable, chuck in the bins. We need to be much more conscious. I do try when I go to have a coffee, take my own reusable cup rather than use their disposable cups. But if we can get to the stage where the rubbish bins are only half full, we can move to fortnightly, and that would be a saving to society, to the community, and it would be a saving to ratepayers, because we're not sending the trucks around weekly. So I put that challenge out to our community. You reduce the amount of rubbish, we'll reduce the cost if we only pick it up fortnightly.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Deneen.
Can I just add to that, because I absolutely agree with that. What we're doing now with the recycling, with the guidelines, thank you everybody here, is that we're getting double the recycling that we are rubbish. So I really am definitely for bin collection fortnightly and maybe even recycling weekly, but we need everybody to be educated and push towards doing this, because it's so important for the planet. Waste is the most massive problem for everybody here and everyone in the world. Have a look at our oceans. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deneen. So that's probably something we could take out when we go back out with our community plans, to see whether the community's keen on doing the fortnightly bin collection as opposed to the weekly. CEO Mark, did you want to comment?
No, Mayor, just 140 litre bins. There would be those who would take the option of 140 litre rather than a 240, because they produce less rubbish. So fortnightly collections are all options, and certainly taking the councillor's point, waste is going to be and will be a massive issue for local government and communities. The only bit I would add, and without sounding negative, also community behaviour. Community whilst it may be a minority, but certainly with not only the manned stations, but particularly the unmanned stations, dropping of either contaminated waste or everything from asbestos through to a whole raft of things, that costed a considerable amount to clean up. And then it also causes other security, extra fencing, a whole raft of other issues. So poor behaviour in utilising facility drives cost as well. So if everyone can be vigilant, we do prosecute when we can find someone who's responsible, but if people could be vigilant in that space, it would help as well.
Thank you, CEO Mark. That's well said. So it's been moved and seconded. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.22 on page 107, and that is the setting of wastewater utility charges 25-26. The officer's recommendation is that for the 25-26 financial year and pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy sewage utility charges for the supply of sewage services by the Council as follows. In respect of all lands and premises which are connected to or capable of connection to Council's reticulated sewage systems, the following utility charges be made and levied for the provision of wastewater systems services for the year ended the 30th of June 2026, except for the Proston Common Effluent Disposal System. 1. In respect of all lands and premises which are connected to Council's wastewater systems, A, for the first pedestal per building connected to any of Council's wastewater systems, a charge of $832 per annum per pedestal. B, other than additional pedestals installed in a private residence for the sole use of the occupier and their family, all additional pedestals per building will be levied a charge of $1, $665 per annum per additional pedestal for hospital and education facilities, and 2, $665 per annum per additional pedestal for all other categories. And C, in respect of each allotment of vacant land rateable under the Local Government Act 2009, situated within the declared wastewater areas defined in Schedule A of the Revenue Statement, except for the Proston Common Effluent Disposal System, a charge of $599 per annum will apply. And D, where any premises not connected to the Council's wastewater system become connected during the year, the charges under Clause A1 shall become operative from the date of connection with proportionate rebate from that date of those made under Clause A3. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Potter, second by Councillor Height. Any discussion? No discussion. If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.23 on page 109, the Water Supply Access Charge Methodology 25-26. The officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 92(4) of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges based on the following methodology to determine water access charges to be levied for the financial year ending the 30th of June 2026 as follows. So, do I need to read all that, CEO Mark, or just as tabled? Just as tabled. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Potter. Someone to second. Councillor Erkins. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So the next item is item 6.24, water supply charges on page 111. So the Councillor Hyde, or
Well, I wanted to propose an amendment, but do you want to move it and second it, and then I propose my amendment, which is the best way to do it?
So this one is the water supply charges 25-26, and well, I'll read the officer's recommendation, is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges set out in the table here under for the provision of water supply services access charges for the financial year ended the 30th of June 2026. And there's a table there for all of the different areas. And Councillor Erkins has moved that. Someone to second that. Councillor Potter. So, Councillor Height, you've got your light on.
Yep, sorry, just opening this up. So, I've always been an advocate for equity, and I feel very strongly that I should raise the inequitable situation we have with potable and non-potable water schemes across our region. So, to set a bit of background, potable water is that can be used for drinking, cooking, showering, and everything else you might want water for. The potable water schemes across our region have their water tested weekly or sometimes daily to ensure it is safe to drink.
Councillor, sorry, are you speaking to the resolution or
Oh,
are you
yes, sorry,
moving
I
your
should
amendment?
actually
You
move
move
it
your
first.
amendment and
Please, can I
then your
move an
speech.
amendment? Sorry, I got carried away.
Sorry, did you want to move?
Yes,
the
I'd like to
amendment?
move an amendment to the charges, please. Got carried away.
So, what's the amendment?
That we reduce the charges for non-potable water.
So, is that CEO Mark? Does Councillor Height need to be more specific, or is that?
I can be more specific if you like, that the water charges for non-potable water areas be reduced by 20 cents per kilolitre.
Okay, so that's the amendment.
Yes.
So, did you just want to read that out slowly so that
That the water in the 3 non-potable areas be reduced by 20 cents per kilolitre over the 3 tiers.
Okay, so that's been moved by Councillor Height.
We're just adding an extra line in, Councillor, so that reduce the charges for the 3 non-potable water areas by 20 cents a kilolitre over the 3 tiers.
Yep.
Is that, yep, that's him? Yep.
So Councillor Hyde has moved that amendment. Someone to second the amendment? Councillor Dineen. So Councillor Hyde.
So now I can get carried away. Okay, so potable and non-potable water. Potable water you can use for drinking and cooking and showering. The potable water schemes across our region have their water tested and ensure it meets the rigid standards of safety. Now, I know sometimes we do have discoloration issues due to the water source, but the water is always safe to drink, cook and wash in. By comparison, non-potable water is not recommended for cooking, showering or drinking and should be boiled first, but can be used in the toilet and the garden. Non-potable water is untested, untreated, of an unknown quality. So to give a bit of background, many years ago, the Proston Rural Water Scheme was set up. This was primarily for farmers, particularly piggeries in the Proston area. The water is untreated, direct from Boondooma Dam, so it is non-potable and not suitable for drinking unless boiled. Because it's non-potable, the access charges for this scheme are lower than the other South Burnett water schemes. And also, as it's primarily for piggeries, there's no tiers, so the cost doesn't go up. Across the South Burnett, we have 8 water treatment plants supplying water to the towns and some villages. At the time of amalgamation, whilst the cost to build and run these treatment plants varies, they were amalgamated into one scheme for rating purposes. But now I come to what I consider the inequity. The 2 small communities of Warrulan and Cumbia and the small non-potable scheme in Nanango are all part of the South Burnett water scheme, and they pay full access charges and full water rates on tiers, yet their water's non-potable. They pay the same as every other South Burnett resident, but for a different product. They pay full water rates, and it's not recommended they drink or cook or wash with that water. Just an example, recently we had an issue in Blackbutt, and the residents were issued with a boil water alert for a number of days. I wonder how the Blackbutt residents would react to being told their boiled water recommendation was to be continued for the rest of the year. I imagine they would demand a reduction in their charges as they're not getting what they paid for. Yet this is what the communities of Cumbia, Warulin and parts of Nanango have this all day, every day. So a little long-winded, but we're here to decide on the budget. So I'd like to offer an amendment to the water rates. I would like to propose that the households on non-potable water have a 20 cents per kilolitre reduction in their water rates. However, of course, the minute you lower something, there's still got to be money to pay for the water treatment team, to test the water and everything else. So I do offer a solution to this. Currently, the businesses with the very high volumes of water pay a discount on their water rates. They pay $1.92, but I've worked the numbers with our wonderful General Manager of Finance, and if we add 1 cent per kilolitre to those high volume consumers, that would compensate for the reduction for the non-potable schemes. So we're not asking the other residents in the South Burnett to pay more, we're just adding 1 cent to the high volume, and then the people with the non-potable water are compensated for the fact that they need to buy water or boil water. So I recommend that amendment. Do you want to add the 1 cent to
Well,
my
councillor,
amendment?
that's not what you moved.
Okay, so I need to adjust the,
Yes, please.
the solution.
Yeah, so with the leave of the meeting and the seconder, because that's not what you moved.
Okay,
So
so
your
could you add
your
that
amendment
amendment?
is to reduce just alone, so you
Okay,
need
so
the
we
second
reduce the
bit.
charge and increase the charge on the high volume usage who already have a discount price by 1 cent per kilolitre. By 1 cent a kilolitre, and that will actually compensate for that cost.
That should be users, volume users, yeah. So does the seconder agree to that change? Thank you. Councillor Erkins.
Councillor Height, well, I agree that what you've put forward sounds really great. However, I know that Cumbia, they tell me that when Cumbia's water first went in, that actually cost to produce $4.50 a kilolitre. So the community already subsidise water to those other places. And when you say that drinking water, you know, I can assure you there's not many people in Nanango actually drink the town water. They all buy town water. When you say about water being potable, I know that if you're a resident who lives on acreage and you go to, you run out of water, you're on tanks and you go in to buy water, so you may say in Nanango that that's potable water. However, once it goes into one of those drums and gets carted out, it's no longer potable. It's contaminated because they put it into the drums. And they're actually paying $6 a kilolitre for their water. So I just think it's difficult to make it fair right across. I understand these people, it's not potable water. However, many people in our region would argue whether their water is sweet drinking water. You know, it's just the quality of our water. It's unpalatable. It may be safe, but you know, a lot of people don't drink it. A lot of people in Nanango don't wash their hair in it. They get bottled water to give their last rinse on their hair. So, you know, I think that it doesn't cost the same amount to produce the water, and it costs more to produce that water. In Nanango, when you talked about treatment plants, Nanango doesn't have a treatment plant. You know, we have bore water from the bores on Barker's Creek, which actually come from the water that's run through the cooling towers at Toorong. So, you know, and our water, but it's not treated, so it's tested. It's safe to drink if you wish to drink it, but it's the cheapest water to be produced. And we still pay the same as they pay in Cumbia, where the water there when they first put it in was costing $4.50 a kilolitre. So I do see your point. I do agree that it's difficult if you have non-potable water. But you know, a lot of people who live on acreage and have tanks, you know, they don't test their water. They just hope that it's going to be okay, and they drink the water or they buy water. A lot of people do buy water. Putting it up on the high volume users, I wouldn't say that I'm totally against that, because, you know, that is an option. I would have liked a little more time to think about how that works, but I do agree you do have some good points, and I'll have to think about it for a couple of minutes as to whether I'm supportive or not. But I do want to put my point across that Nanango water has gone up dramatically since amalgamation. The reason it did that was because it's to bring an equitable price across the whole region, but we don't have the luxury. And I mean, we have a lot of talk now coming from state government about the quality of our water and how long our water is actually going to meet those specifications for being safe.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Oakins. Councillor Little.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make a point about the Black Butt water. Recently, we've had some real challenges down in Black Butt with the quality of the water coming through. And I know that my residents down in Black Butt and Banarkin would like to have a bit of a discount, because to their mind, their water's not potable either. And when we had those big slugs come through and it affected people's washing, it went through hot water systems, it ruined clothes and other things. People couldn't use it to bathe in. It was really disgusting. And even though we got a little bit on top of that and put the boiled water notice out, people were still weeks after that having issues with discoloration of the water. Now, I understand that it's our raw water source is where our issues will come from, but, you know, if you're going to start talking discounts on water, well then everybody that's affected at any time by our potable or non-potable water should be getting a discount at some stage as well. That's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Deneen.
I merely think, Councillor Little, that proved the point that if you're in an area that has potable water, if it suddenly isn't potable, then you expect a discount, which is all that we are considering would be the best thing for people who are in an area with non-potable water. They're two different products. There's always challenges with water. It's fascinating. I have a farm. Of course, I've had have tank water. When you run out of tank water, you get a truckload in. I tell you, it's not potable. But you find a way to drink the water, to get drinking water, to have one tank separately, all of that sort of stuff. It is a massive problem. It's not going to get any easier for us with the new regulations, as Councillor Erkins mentioned. But I still think the basic issue is the two different types of water. One's potable, one isn't. And that doesn't change. So, yeah, I absolutely agree that we should be changing the non-potable scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Deneen. Councillor Sander.
Coming off a farm, I understand how, you know, important water is to, like, if you're on a rural system, like we connected rural water to our property back in the day, and we wouldn't care about 20 cents extra or 20 cents discount. You've got that availability, you've got water on tap when you want it. In drought times, it adds value to property when you resale. But the main point that I want to put across is council doesn't get the water for free. We've still got to pay Sunwater for that water, and that's charged to us at a top dollar. So a 20-cent discount from us ain't gonna, you know, it's not gonna help council, it's just gonna subsidise it down the track, because we still got to pay Sunwater for that, and we don't get no discounts from them. So I just want to add that.
Thank you, Councillor Sander. Councillor Deneen. Potter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I do understand where Councillor Hyde has come from with regards to the non-potable water, but, you know, we've got to realise already that other ratepayers are already subsidising for some of these schemes for them to actually have water, whether it's potable or not, to go into their homes. So I you know, but with regards to that, and I would like to know the implications from how much we're going to lose out of that water scheme and how much it's actually going to cost. I will not vote for something if I don't know the full details. I
Happy
would
to
like
answer
to
that.
know exactly how much it's going to cost each of those businesses that it's going to affect, because that's a lot of money on
Yep.
top of those businesses' budgets. So I want a breakdown of all the businesses and how much it's going to cost extra in their budgets.
So,
happy to
General
answer.
Manager Kerry, do you have that?
Yes, so through you, Madam Mayor, so the exercise that we did yesterday for the non-potable schemes for Warrulan, Cumbia and the Nanango area, essentially by reducing it by the 20 cents, it is roughly around $3,500. So that is essentially what would go on to those high water users. If we did an extra cent, we would get back roughly about $3,000, I think I worked out.
So does that include the Proston?
No.
No.
So that, but it's non-potable as well.
Yes.
So
Happy
why
to
should?
answer that?
Sorry, so I'm just wondering why it would not include the Proston scheme, because they're non-potable as well.
Do you want me to answer that? As I explained, Proston was set up for farmers, so they pay no tiers. They're all on one tier, and also they pay nearly $200 less access, because that scheme was set up for the farmers. So that's why I feel they're happy with their scheme, because for their piggeries primarily, which was what it was set up for, they've got the lower access and they can use a lot of water without the tiers. Can I just add to that? We talked a little bit about standpipes. The standpipe of potable water is more expensive than the standpipe water charged for non-potable, because it's a different product, and so it's $1 cheaper. And to respond to Councillor Sanders' Sunwater cost, I'm not totally sure here, but certainly the Warrulan water doesn't go through Sunwater. It is pumped out of Warrulan wetlands up to a tank and trickle feeds down. Cumbia is actually comes from the Stewart River or Haley Creek. I'm not totally sure. There's 2 bores, so it doesn't go through Sunwater. But I feel that's a different argument, because I know that, and to give you an example, Nanango doesn't cost much to treat. It is treated because it has to have chlorine in to make sure it's safe. And in setting up the water treatment plants, I mean, I know Wondice was built in 1999 prior to amalgamation, and because Wondice was a small area, it was fully paid for by the state government. When Kingaroy had a new water treatment plant 7 or 8 years ago, the whole of the South Burnett, that was the last borrowing 7 or 8 years ago, which was for their water treatment plant. So if you go on...
Sorry, we've still got others that need to
Okay,
debate. You have the right of reply.
So my point is, the cost to set up vary, but to me, it's 2 different products.
So, Councillor Sanders?
Can I move a motion that this lay on the table until we get all the information?
So that's a procedural motion.
Yeah, I would recommend against it, because rates, water charges need to be adopted at your budget
Can we
meeting.
adopt this and then leave it on the table for a month to reevaluate?
I'm thinking, without having the act in front of me, you get one shot at these charges, and that's your budget meeting. So it would be...
What about the amendment? Can we...
Well, you will get one shot at your budget meeting. We'd have to consult the act, but you would be best dealt with at the budget
Because we
meeting.
can't, we haven't got all the information, and we're
That's right. It's just,
grasping at
yeah.
straws.
I just want to. I'm actually going to speak against the motion, because I believe, 1, we haven't got the information. 2, is that I actually was part of the debate when we first decided to put all of the water together. And the reason why we did that was because some of those smaller schemes were costing a fortune. And the reason why we put the Proston rural scheme in with everybody was so that we could subsidise it. So the higher users are already subsidising those smaller schemes. They actually cost way more. So once you start, as Councillor Little has said, once you start saying, questioning the fact that we're all in this together, everybody pays the same amount, The Proston Rural one, we had massive issues with it because it was costing so much. So then we put it in with everybody and they pay that same access. The only reason why they don't pay same consumption, but the access was because they're a rural scheme and they have a lot more meters across their paddocks. So that's why we discounted the actual meters and the access, but they pay the same rate in the dollar for their same rate for their consumption, and that's why we were very careful to make sure that they still pay that same consumption rate. You're asking now for some of them to pay a less consumption rate. Like, where does this end? And as Councillor Little said, once you start picking and choosing, like at some point, do we give the discount because at that period the Black Butt water wasn't drinkable? And the same with, like, you could start to argue with rubbish as well. You could say, well, everybody pays the same waste management levy, but some people have access at Wandai and Mergen. They've only got access to the transfer stations half a day, whereas Kingaroy, they have a full day. I mean, this is what amalgamation has done, but so it's like we're all in this together, and we can't pick and choose, in my opinion. It's just opening a can of worms once you start saying, well, that then, and we've already had the debate here. Councillor Little saying, well, at this point, our water wasn't potable. Why wouldn't we get a discount? And everyone's like, and Councillor Erkins is saying, you know, well, we didn't pay that. That's what happened when we did amalgamation, but we certainly tried to bring those higher level schemes down by putting everybody together. That's what we did. If you want to go back to individuals and saying, well, you're not getting the same, then separate them out again and pay way more for non-potable water, because those individual schemes, they are so much more expensive because there's so few users and they need that non-potable water. So I'm absolutely against the motion, sorry.
Okay,
So you have the right of reply. Councillor Erkins.
I just think when we talk about putting the price up for the commercial users, the high volume users, what we have to look at, we're facing the closure of the peanuts here with vegan. You know, we don't need to put they're probably not a high user, but it's still a business we're losing. I don't believe that we can just sit here off the cuff and put the price up for commercial users. You know, we don't know the implications. We don't know how it's going to affect them, and I don't think it's something a decision we can make on such short notice. I'm not saying I'm against it in the whole. If I had more information on it, would probably vote for it, but I don't have the information on it, and I don't know how it's going to affect them, and I don't know how it's going to affect their businesses.
So I think we're going to have Councillor Height right of reply.
Okay, so just to respond to you, Mayor, can you explain to me why the standpipe cost is 5, it's lower for non-potable than potable? We have 2 standpipe prices, one for potable water and one for non-potable. And if you want everybody the same, well, Proston Rural should be paying the same, and they're not. They're paying a lower access and they don't have tiers. So I just feel there's holes in your argument, because you're saying Proston Rural can have it cheaper, and yet you're saying these 3 communities, part of Nanango, Warula and Cumbia, they've got non-potable water, they're not having it cheaper. So you're saying it's got to be fair and all the same, and yet we have 2 big discrepancies. The standpipe cost is cheaper for non-potable water than potable, and Proston Rural is cheaper. So is it one rule for one and one rule for the others?
Is that your right of reply?
I still feel
so.
It's
I actually voted against all the high prices for the standpipes way back when Councillor Erkins wrote the song. So I don't understand. So yeah, the Proston Rural scheme is absolutely a different scheme, and that's why we had the separate meeting. But they certainly do still pay the access. Okay, so are we ready to vote? Oh, sorry. Okay, so it's been moved. The amendment's been moved by Councillor Height and seconded by Councillor Dineen, so that the amendment. that the changes for the 3 non-potable areas be reduced, that the charges for the 3 non-potable areas be reduced by 20 cents per kilolitre over the 3 tiers, and increase the charge on the high volume users by 1 cent per kilolitre. So that's the motion. So everyone's had their discussion, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Height and Councillor Deneen. All those against? The motion is lost. 4 votes to 2. Thank you. Sorry, 5 votes to 2. Thank you. The amendment is lost. So now we go back to the original motion. So the original motion is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges set out in the table here under for the provision of water supply services access charges for the financial year ended 30th of June 2026. That was moved by Councillor Erkins and seconded by Councillor Potter. So now I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. 5 votes to 2. Thank you. Thank you for the robust debate and for the opportunity as we go forward to relook at how that's rolled out. Thank you, Councillor Height. So the next item is the 6.25 water consumption charge methodology on page 114. So the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and on the basis of the principles laid down in Council's revenue statement, Council make and levy water utility consumption charges for the supply of water services as follows, and the following methodology be adopted to determine water consumption charges for water consumed each 6 months during the financial year ending the 30th of June 2026 in respect of water supply schemes of Blackbutt, Bundooma Dam, Kingaroy, Cumbia, Mergen, Nanego, Proston, Tinguru, Wandover, Rural and Yallacool. A, Council operated 3-tier banding system based on the volume of water used in kilolitres and the capacity of the meter connected. And B, for the connections greater than 20 millimetres, the steps are increased proportionately with the capacity factor for each metre size. And C, the tiers or steps that apply for each 6-monthly reading are shown in the table below. So someone like to move that? Councillor Potter, second by Councillor Little. Any discussion? Councillor Sander.
You missed point 2.
Oh.
You didn't read out point 2 of that.
Oh, sorry. Oh, righto, sorry. In respect of Proston Rural Water Supply Scheme, A flat charge to apply for all water consumed. Sorry. So someone to move that? Councillor Potter, and seconded by Councillor Little. Councillor Height.
No, I'm not seconding it.
No, you've got your microphone on.
Yes. I'd just like to ask the Mayor, in respect of Proston, there's a flat charge and no tiers. If everybody's all the same, why are they not on tiers?
So we had way back, like years and years ago, the fact that there was set up as a rural scheme, and most of them are piggeries and rural producers, and the other town areas have their residences, whereas Proston was set up as a rural scheme. It was breaking the piggeries because the more they used, the more they paid, and so we had big meetings, and that's why we decided to make it a flat rate. Lots of meetings with the community. Any other questions, comments? You ready to vote? All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're moving on to item 6.26, Special Charge Annual Implementation Plan, Road Maintenance, Barabri Road Quarry, on page 116. This recommendation is pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. council make and levy a special charge on the Burrabri Road quarry situated of $9,412.67 on land described as Lot 67 on BO 576 or 1229 Burrabri Road, Geelong in the 25-26 financial year to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at the site, and that 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 25-26 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 25-26 in the revenue statement 25-26. That's the motion. So someone to move that, Councillor Erkins, seconded by Councillor Sander. Councillor Sander?
Can we just remove the word situated out of the sentence? On the first line.
Page 116, item 1.
Quarry.
On the Burrabri Road quarry.
So just if we remove the word situated out of there, it reads proper.
Okay.
Situated on the land. So just, yeah, put the word situated after the dollars.
So after the word charge, you put of the Burrabri Road quarry.
That's it.
Yeah.
Councillor Erkins?
So this is probably off track with this, but I understand that, you know, quarries are using the road. And I just wonder, can we look again into the fact that we have the forestry departments using the roads with their trucks, and we look again at whether there is any way we can impose a charge on those industries or on those properties or on the state government or whoever it is that is doing that. We've had meetings with the forestry people in Blackbutt, but nothing has come from that. But they do have a big impact on our roads and our residents. So I'd just like to bring that up, and maybe, Mr. CEO, we can look into that a little further after our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. General Manager, did you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, happy to take that one on notice, Mayor, and discuss that with the council to see what options we have.
Thank you. So someone to move that particular motion? Oh, so we've got that one. We've got Councillor Erkins, sorry, Councillor Sander. Any discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll have to adjourn because we've got citizenship ceremonies in the forecourt. So someone move that we adjourn. Councillor Erkins, seconded by Councillor Sander. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So welcome back, everyone. Could I have someone move that we resume the meeting? Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Height. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is 6.27, Special Charge Annual Implementation Plan Road Maintenance Manara Road on page 120. And the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 9.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 9.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, 1. Council does not levy a special charge on the Manara Road quarry situated on land described as Lot 7 on BO 179 or 1551 Manara Road, Banduma in the 25-26 financial year, as the quarry has not commenced significant operations. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 25-26 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 25-26 and the revenue statement 25-26. So someone to move that. Councillor Sander, seconded by Councillor Little. Any discussion? Councillor Sander.
Just want to clarify what significant operations is. What's it mean?
Production of material in accordance with their planning application. So they're not hitting any of the thresholds in their planning application.
I don't believe that quarry is operating at all at this point. So any other questions? You ready to vote? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.28, Special Charge Annual Implementation Plan Road Maintenance Tim Dwyer Road on page 124. And the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to Section 9.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 9.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, 1. Council does not levy a special charge on the Tim Dwyer Road quarry situated on land described as Lot 169 on CSH 697 or 79 Tim Dwyer Road, East Nandengo, in the 25-26 financial year, as the quarry has not commenced significant operations. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan for the 25-26 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 25-26 and the revenue statement 25-26. Someone to move that one, Councillor Erkins. Someone to second that, Councillor Deneen. Any discussion? If not, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is item 6.29 on page 128. And that one is the road maintenance Wattle Grove Road quarry. The officer's recommendation is that council, that pursuant to Section 9.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 9.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, 1. Council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Kingaroy Quarry Supplies Wattle Grove Road Special Charge of $25,744.44 on land described as Lot 2 on SP 341268, previously Lot 459 on FY 1925 and situated at 1304 Wattle Grove Road, Wattle Grove, to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at the site. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 25-26 financial year pursuant to the revenue policy 25-26 and the revenue statement 25-26. Someone to move that one, Councillor Erkins, seconded by Councillor Little. Councillor Erkins.
I just see this is one of the ones that is actually in use, and the charges that we put on that, General Manager, does that cover the maintenance costs on that road?
Yeah, through the Mayor. So just in relation to this, we work over the life of a plan of the quarry. So we take a maintenance contribution and a reconstruction contribution. If the quarry happens to contribute to maintenance, including some gravel reshedding and those sort of things, and I note this quarry put out significant tonnage of gravel on the Wattle Grove Road under a permit, which we do with some of the quarry owners, that helps them to reduce their costs and also make sure that the road is in good condition for their own vehicles. So it's very much if the road is mistreated by the operators, then there's the ability to recover those costs. But we try to work with quarries each year, and in this case here, like in the past years, we've had a lower tonnage for this quarry, but obviously they've reported to us that they've increased their tonnage, so therefore we've increased the charges too. So we do try to work together.
So any of these ones that we've got in here, are any of those ones that are supplying gravel to the wind farm?
Through the chair, so if they're supplying, they have to supply within their existing development approval of conditions. So it means they could sell to us or they could sell to a wind farm. In this case here, the special charge is taken on the designated haul route, which is in the approval given by council at the time. So if they're taking from a sand extraction licence, an ERA, then they're not charged special rates. It's only on the actual quarry development that's approved through council.
So how do we go about recovering, because we hear a lot of complaints from residents in that area, how do we go about having them contribute to road maintenance?
I'd probably through the chair it's probably a separate issue to the special charge, but happy to talk about that in line with your forestry and those sort of things if that helps take it.
Thank you.
So any other questions, comments? If not, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. The next item is item 6.30 on page 132, and that one is the implementation plan road maintenance Wilson's Road Quarry. So the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to section 9.4 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 9.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, 1, council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Gordon Brook Sand Quarry Wilson's Road Special Charge of $6,938 on land described as Lot 49 on BO 544 and situated at Wilson's Road, Gordon Brook, to fund road maintenance and reconstruction costs associated with the operation of the extractive industry operation at the site. And number 2, that council adopts the annual implementation plan and the proposed special charge for 25-26 financial year pursuant to the Revenue Policy 25-26 and the Revenue Statement 25-26. So someone to move that? Councillor Erkins, second by Councillor Potter. Councillor Erkins.
Oh, sorry.
Any comments? Ready to vote? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So now I'm just to do my budget address, my Mayor's budget address. So I'm pleased to hand down the 25-26 financial year budget on behalf of this council team. The CEO, senior staff and councillors, I think, would all agree that the recent state government revaluations have been incredibly challenging because they have been inconsistent across nearly every category of rateable land. I'm pleased to say that our wonderful General Manager of Finance and Livability and her team have been able to navigate this problem. And I believe they have done a great job of minimising the impact on our ratepayers as much as possible. Within the categories and across the majority of categories, the rate rise will be on average 2.25%. But because of the revaluations, I need to emphasise that there will be winners and losers. The average residential block's general rate rise, general rates will increase by approximately $45 per year. There will be some areas across the region where ratepayers may even get a small reduction in their general rates. However, some landholders, because of the large fluctuation in valuations, will get a significant increase. We have used tools such as 3 years averaging to try to minimise the impact on these property owners. Our rate rise is very minimal compared to some other councils that I know have reached double-digit figures. We have also kept our 10% discount that many other councils have removed. The 10% discount for early payment not only comes off general rates, it also includes water access, wastewater and wheelie bin collection charges. Eligible South Burnett pensioners can also receive up to $400 per annum of their annual rate fee plus 50% off recycling charges. This council team have made a huge effort to find savings across our organisation while still maintaining basic essential services and infrastructure. I am proud to say that in delivering this budget, we have not had to reduce any of our cash and our operations are covering our costs, so in real terms, our books are balanced. Wastewater and water are both separate business units and we continue to collect additional funds to ensure that we can maintain and improve these assets going forward. Waste is also its own business unit and is an increasing cost to council because of state government compliance. Many councils are closing their smaller transfer stations to help reduce costs. However, we have chosen to keep our transfer stations as we realise that they are important, particularly to our rural communities who do not have a bin collection. In delivering this budget, we have kept a large focus on our roads. and have again put the majority of capital works into our roads. We successfully air scoured the Kingaroy CBD, and this year we'll be air scouring the Blackbutt and Banarkan water pipes. Our council is very much focused on growing our own, and as such have put on 4 biosecurity officers to spray the weeds instead of contractors. We are also training our own traffic management team and have put on 2 additional staff to ensure that our cemeteries are looked after in the way that everyone would expect. I hope that everyone has noticed the presentation across our region, with slashing done, guideposts straightened, and the town gardens looking tidy and maintained. Our goal this term is to get the basics right so that our community feels that everything is being cared for and looked after. We have a new direction with a customer-focused team and have put on additional staff to ensure that you, as ratepayers, are being looked after and your concerns are followed up and dealt with. In closing, I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for the massive amount of work they have put into this budget, the senior leadership team, GM Kerry, GM Aaron and your respective staff, our CEO Mark and our team in executive services. I also wanted to mention, because the councillors normally would do, they were going to go around the table and do their updates for their capital projects, but because of the shortage of time, and they decided not to do that, I'm just going to highlight some of our capital projects, which I think are amazing, because we do so many things across so many areas of council that I don't want to be unnoticed. So we're doing this year a Kingaroy Airport Master Plan for $120,000, a Kingaroy Air Park and Hangar Site Survey and Design, Wandai Airport Runway Refurbishment, and Wandai Airport Lights Replacement. Coolabunnya Sale Yards, we're continuing to upgrade them for our rural producers, yard upgrades, refurbish the toilets and canteen. BP Dam, we've for tourism, 2 cabins and refurbishments, Badooma Dam ensuite and camp kitchen, concrete slabs, caravan sites and repair the cabins. The Wandai Coronation Park, getting a new playground. Proston Railway Park shade sails, Mergen Lions Park soft fall, Memorandum new playground, Banarkan Flying Fox, Mergen Dog Park fence, Barul and Dalton Park replace play equipment, Kingaroy soft fall, Nanengo soft fall and Wandai soft fall, Blackbutt signage, Cloyna transfer station fencing and electronic gates, Gordonbrook raw water off-stream storage, and that's a massive project, $5,800,000. Heisler Sports Ground dump point, amenity upgrades to the showers, amenity upgrades to showers, Cumbia dump point, Capenic Park viewing platform and remove the toilets and add the viewing platform, the Nango sewage treatment plant upgrade, Mergen Hall repair and reseal rear driveway, Kingaroy Red Ant relocation and public art, so that's a Works for Queensland project from Councillor Potter, Wandai Town Hall re-roof, Kingaroy Town Hall car park reseal and paver footpath, Geelong Hall ramp replacement, Badooma Homestead restoration, Southburn Animal Housing various upgrades, because we're taking over, as everyone knows, we have taken over the facilities from the RSPCA. Roads, bitumen reseal program, $5,093,285, and we've got complementary works to go with our flood works is $875,000. The Blackbutt Crow's Nest Road widening, that's a $2 million project. Morris Street, Burnett Street on the Allen Downey Fields. Kingaroy median strips. Tingura Chelmsford Stage 2, that's a $1 million project. Kingaroy Testmans Road footpath. Kingaroy Curb and Channel, Youngman Street, and Mergen Curb and Channel and stormwater drainage. So I just wanted to highlight some of those projects, all those projects, but we've also got lots of others, but I just picked out some across our region just to show that how many projects, how many capital works projects we do. Some of that is funded through our capital budget and some of it is Works for Queensland and other grant funding, but just an amazing lot of work. So even though we are back to basics council, we're still looking after all of those assets. So just wanted to now present my report for adoption. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Erkins.
Mayor, may we, if the councillors are tabling their reports, just add with the leave of yourself and the seconder in the meeting,
just to add a little bit to the, go. And that the councillor budget updates are tabled and received.
Okay, so I'll add that to and receive the councillor budget.
And that way we'll
updates.
include all the budget updates in the minutes along with the mayor's update.
So the motion is that the mayor's budget address for the 25-26 budget be received and the councillor budget updates are tabled and received. So Councillor Urquhart, you happy that that's changed to that one? So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. So now we're moving on to the big one, which is the adoption of the 25-26 budget. So that is on page 135. And the officer's recommendation is that pursuant to section 169 and 170 of the local government regulation, council budget for the 25-26 financial year, incorporating 1, the statements of financial position, the statements of cash flow, 3, the statements of income and expenditure, 4, the statements of changes in equity, 5, the capital budget, 6, the long-term financial forecast, 7, the revenue statement, 8, the revenue policy as adopted on the 21st of May 2025, 9, the relevant measures of financial sustainability, and 10, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges levied for the financial year compared with the rates and utility charges levied in the previous budget as tabled to be adopted. So I'd like to move that the budget be adopted. Seconded by Councillor Potter. Any discussion? No discussion? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone, and thanks again to the senior staff and to just everybody who's put, to the councillors, everyone who's contributed. It's been months and months and months of work, and just finally we've reached to this point, and I'm looking forward to rolling it out in the next financial year. And just a big shout out again to our CEO Mark, but also General Managers Kerry and General Manager Aaron, and particularly our executive team and the girls in the office for putting together our media packs, and Helen who's taking our minutes. So thank you, everybody, and we'll look forward to this rolling out of our next financial year's budget. And I have pleasure now in closing the meeting. Thanks, everyone.